I'm Rebecca Cohen with the Aaron Bates Real Estate Team, and we have Danielle Adornato, and we have a special guest today, Aaron Bates himself.
Hello.
You've all been asking, and here we are.
Asked and answered.
Who's been asking?
So actually,
All the
almost
people.
everybody,
The
I
people.
didn't tell you this, but almost everybody asks me, when is Aaron going to be on? When is Aaron going to be on? Oh, George is one of them. You know,
So you
George.
didn't know, but you've been requested.
But you've
Oh,
been
right,
requested
no,
multiple
no
times.
clue.
Everybody wants to see a little bit of Aaron on In-House Happy Hour.
Sweet.
So here you have it.
So this is kind of weak though. We don't have drinks.
I have tea today because we're doing this in the middle of the workday.
Oh,
It's
alright.
kind of early, so
Um,
we're not totally boozing yet.
Yeah, we're not quite at the happy hour yet, but we're all happy, regardless.
Okay, I'm usually the queen corny, but we'll let Rebecca have the corny moment today. So, Happy New Year, guys. We haven't really tuned in a little bit. We thought we'd say hello, say what's up, see what everyone's been up to for the New Year's.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of do resolutions. Do you guys do resolutions for New Year's?
No, I did not.
No.
I don't.
I usually don't follow them either. So.
So why do it, right?
Right.
What's
I'm-
your theories about resolutions? I'm curious. I mean, I feel like everybody, oh, New Year, new me, all this.
Yeah, that is like a whole exhausted philosophy to me. I don't want to do New Year, New Me. I don't think that you need a timeline, I guess, to start doing something that's good for you.
Agreed.
Or to stop doing something that's bad for you. You know, you don't need
Do
New
it on-
Year's.
do it on
Like, do
Monday.
it now.
Yeah.
Why are we waiting?
Right, exactly. You don't have to start Monday, you can start now, right? So that's kind of my theory about resolutions. How about yours?
I just don't do it. I think we go from holiday to holiday and then boom, you're in a new year. I still realizing we're in January, so
Still recovering?
still trying to figure it all out.
So Aaron just hasn't really comprehended that we're in a new year, so that's why he hasn't done a New Year's resolution, I think.
Yeah. That's true.
So I'm with Rebecca. I mean, New Year, new me. We come up with quarterly goals. We have weekly goals. We're attacking things all the time. So
Yeah.
New Year, I'm not waiting for it.
I did notice that the gym is pretty packed.
Yes, that's never gonna change.
No.
New Year,
Well,
yeah. everyone's
first
back
2
in.
weeks. First 2
First
weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you're done.
That's usually when I kind of sit back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's there, and I'm gonna take my little break now.
Yeah.
Even after the holidays, I feel like I gave up for 2 weeks and I'm trying to get back. But you can't get on any gym equipment.
Yeah, that's true too. Which gym?
I almost said Crunch. I almost said Gold for some. Because I have 2 memberships, that's why.
Fancy.
Just found out that I'm paying for one for the last 2 years because they contacted me a couple days ago. Hey, when do you want to come in for your free training? And I'm like, wait a second, I'm paying? I didn't even know, and it actually switched gyms to a different gym.
Oh, you switched ownership?
Switched ownership. I thought I was already canceled. I actually might have been paying it for 3 years. So I've had 2 memberships for at least 2 to 3 years. And I just found out like 3 days ago.
Thanks to me, I've gotten better. I'm LA Fitness, but it's like for all of them. It hasn't been that crowded though.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I used to go there all the
No.
time. It was great. The one in Farmingdale and then
Yeah,
another
Farmingdale's
time.
nice. I also go super late, like
Yeah.
9 o'clock at night, so
Yeah.
it's pretty empty there.
Yeah, it's the best time to go. Or like
So
5, 6 o'clock in the morning.
we don't have New Year's resolutions.
No resolutions for us, but if you have resolutions, let us know.
Chime in. I'm curious.
We'd love to
if
see what
anybody-
yours are. Today, if you can see on our little sign over here, restaurants and real estate. So,
Probably wondering what the hell do they have to do with each other?
Yeah, so what do restaurants have to do with real estate? So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, and how in the real estate mortgage industry, we can use expertise learned from the service industry to better service our clients and in the real estate industry.
So Aaron, you've been in the industry in both sides of this. You've been in real estate, you've been in the hospitality for a long time.
Not anymore, but I transitioned from, I used to bartend for many, many years, which ultimately turned into a lot of my past patrons became homeowners by using my services. Never in my 20s did I ever think that was going to happen, but I kind of went into real estate, had a bartending gig the whole time, bartended, and then finally got to the point where either the hours got too long and I didn't need the bartending anymore. Kind of transitioned out. So I learned a lot from bartending that transitioned over to real estate, and I think that they're a lot more similar than most people think they are. And you would know yourself.
Yeah, I say that all the time, and I say that when I'm talking to clients and referring both businesses. So I come as well from restaurant, hospitality industry, from bartending, serving, managing, hosting, every position, but I think it really ties in because we're essentially working for the people. We're not really, it's not like that's who we're answering to. I mean, our service, our speed, our manners, everything is the people in both industries. And
yeah, I think that like I worked in a low-key bar, which anybody that's going to see this is most likely has been served by me. And it was a low-key, hole-in-the-wall bar. There was nothing to offer, and the one thing I tried to pride myself in was speed and service and relationship building. And so I always said that if I'm back there, I'm going to make sure that these people are coming back every single time that I'm working Monday, Thursday night, whatever it may be. And I pride myself in that, and I try to make sure that once I knew that they were about to be done with a drink, they already had another one ready.
You already knew what they needed.
And it was sick. It was very sick for a while that I could tell them exactly what they wore and what they drank last time they were in, or maybe even 2 times before that. And every single time it was like that. And then I could maybe not see somebody for a year, and they're like, "Oh, well, you're drinking Heineken, you do a shot of Jameson."
Just clicks.
Every single
it's
time.
Muscle memory.
Yeah, it's not so much anymore because I'm getting older, but like it was.
Who are you kidding?
It was all the time. It was all the time. So it was great, and with many, many years of bartending, I gained so many awesome relationships.
And a different kind of trust too, I'm sure.
100%. I mean, you got to trust your bartender. I mean, I think the service industry is a little bit different than it used to be.
Yeah.
I don't think that you get the service that you normally would get. I mean, it's a little bit hard to even tell that because not many of us are going to bars and restaurants normal, but you got to, I think, when you have a good server or a good bartender.
And you want to come back again. Same
Always.
thing with this business. You're going to remember the service that you got, and you're going to want to call them up again. That's who you refer. And we were saying before, like Google reviews, just like before you go to a new restaurant, you look it up or you ask around, have you ever tried this restaurant?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm using this realtor and this mortgage lady. Have you ever heard of them? You know this bank? What kind of reviews do they have? You want to check their reputation.
Yeah, you're sitting there on Yelp looking up a restaurant that you're going to go to on Friday night.
My sister's famous for that. She will not dine at a restaurant unless it's 5 stars.
Good luck with that. 'Cause it only takes, you could have 150 reviews, one bad review.
And it messes you up, right?
We'll be on the way there. I don't know. Do you see this review? I'm like, come on.
It's like a love-hate relationship with certain review sites, I think.
You almost don't want to know.
Yeah, because sometimes you always get those people that go on there and they're like, just like the people who will never write a good review, but then they'll always write a bad review.
The bad ones, yeah.
And I think that's kind of the downfall of review sites is that there are possibly more people who will always write a bad review but never write a good one.
Which I never understood. I said, you'd have to really like come over, throw food in my face, piss on me, like
to get a bad review.
It would really have to be a bad experience, because I think that majority of the time, I would say at least 50% of the time, something doesn't go your way, but it's not a big deal. It's definitely not a big enough deal to go home and write a bad review about a restaurant or a server or any service.
Yeah. An imperfect experience doesn't mean it's a bad experience.
Right. And that's also something that you talk about all the time too, is making the real estate and the home buying an experience. I know you always emphasize on that as it's an experience, just like dining in a restaurant.
Right.
It's not just going to eat. You want to make it an experience. And that's what makes, I know my family, my parents especially, when they go to a restaurant and they have a good waiter or waitress or bartender, they'll go there, oh no, we have to get this one. We have such a good time. Like,
Right.
that's what they remember. We have so much fun. It's like,
Yeah.
you're having dinner.
That's good,
Say anything
too.
about the food.
That's really
It was
good.
the time that they had.
Well, and that's what it's about, because, you know, I think that eating out in general has become such a normal thing, like just to eat out and often. I mean, we eat out a lot,
For some.
but I think like, in general in society, eating out a lot has become such a
It has.
normal, regular thing.
It used to
where
be more on
people
occasion.
don't eat at home as
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah.
you forget that even if you do it frequently, the purpose is not just to eat. Like, to me at least, it's not.
No,
Like when I go to a restaurant, I don't care if it's a Monday night or a Friday night. The purpose of me being there is not just to eat. It's about how I'm spending my time that day, you know?
Right.
So maybe on a Monday night, I'm running my kids around from activities, but I go to a restaurant for the convenience. But it's still also because, like, I want to relax. I don't want to go home and cook that night and do the dishes and all that stuff. I just want to sit and relax and have dinner with my kids, right? Or if you go out on a date night, then it really is about the experience. But I think that some people overall just are forgetting to enjoy the experience.
Agreed.
Of going
We're forgetting that that's really what it's about.
Right, and then, you know, your service providers can make or break that experience for you.
Not only that, on our side of it, and it's not just about who everyone believes is the client. In our case, the client is so many things. I mean, throughout a day, if you have a transaction, you know you're answering to how many people. You're answering, in my case, I'm answering to the realtor. I'm answering to my buyer, who everyone just automatically assumes is the client, the attorneys, title. We have to answer to, and those are really who we're working for. It's serving, it's speed on that. And that's the experience too.
Yeah, we're all putting it together for each
It's like
other.
the conveyor belt. It's basically like the kitchen. You can consider the line in the kitchen.
Right.
Everyone's communicating to get to the end, get that food out to the table.
Right, exactly. The goal is to get that house out to that customer or to that client, but in the process, we all have to do our jobs, whether it's on the mortgage side, as an agent, as an attorney, every single person, you know, it's a team effort. We really try to emphasize that we are a team, but the team is not just us. The team is all of these other people.
Nobody even realizes
the people
all
that we know and the people that we don't know. It's your inspector, the surveyor, everybody. You know, and that team helps make that whole experience positive for that client.
You were about to say something.
No, I was something you said. It's not even really completely related. But when you're saying we work for, I like to think that you work with. Like I don't
like
think
that.
Rebecca works for me, and I would think that
Right.
Dave and Christian don't think that you work for them. You work with them.
Well, I like
Yeah.
that comparison, but I'm thinking it more of like, okay, so we work for, so that's our employers, but we're working for the people.
Right.
Like we're actually, basically, we're working for them. Like the
Yeah.
buyers.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I still think that like
We're working together
We're working
to get
together.
the goal.
We're-
I like that.
Everybody's trying to get to the end goal. I never. I think that whether it was myself, Rebecca, and 50 other people, I don't think anybody's working for me. We're working with each other, and I think that. So when you said it,
No,
which is,
no,
I've been thinking
it's
about it a
huge,
lot
yeah.
lately, and I always find myself correcting myself if I said, I'm working for. No, well, we're working with.
You
We're all
know,
working
that's so
together.
powerful what that does though to anybody. And I bring this up to Christian all the time. Years ago, I must have been a year with them at this point, and that's when he would go on meetings with me. And I tell everybody the way that, how humbling it was that he introduced me the way he did. It was never, oh, this is one of my employees. It
Right.
was, oh, this is Danielle, she works with us on the team.
Yeah, I
What
think
it does to empower who you work with or who works for you,
100%.
quote unquote.
Because everybody has a job. It doesn't matter which. If you take we're in the football playoffs. So if you take every person on that team, everybody has a job. Doesn't mean that the quarterback or the linemen are working for the quarterback. They're working with them.
We're working together to get this, yeah.
And
to
everybody,
get this win,
same
yeah.
with a real estate transaction, same with life or any job. I think you're working with somebody, not for somebody. So it doesn't matter if it's a guy
like
on top or the
yeah.
guy down on the below. I want to treat, and I wasn't even going into it's treating somebody different, but I think that
But it
empowering somebody,
does empower.
especially like let's say like I have an assistant. My assistant isn't any different than Rebecca or myself. We're working together to
We
get
need
to the
each
same
other,
end,
yeah.
end goal.
Mhm.
So that's why I always say to myself and to anybody else I speak to, we're working with that.
I like that.
So
It's crazy how one little word or one little switch it really does make a difference.
yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think then you get the better person to work with you. Like they're gonna want to do more for you,
Yeah.
you know, and you're gonna want to do more for them because they're gonna be happy, and then you get a happy environment, and then everything works out.
Everybody's happy.
Well, everybody's happy. You get to the end result. And in our case, the end result is our consumer, our buyer, seller, client is buying or selling the house. You know, and then
They get their house, and then they share how great
How
the
great the
experience,
experience,
was. You know, that the first time I bought a house, I didn't use Aaron and Rebecca, and it was terrible. And then I used them, and it was great, and I loved everything about it. You know, and that's the kind of feedback that we sometimes get from people, and so it's really rewarding because it helps us to know
Totally
that
pride in, yeah.
the things that we do make a difference.
yeah, there's the process stinks.
If you think
The
about
process
it,
really stinks.
if you
so-
think about it, you're going out to dinner.
It can.
For example, my dad. Growing up, I have 3 sisters. The bill, as we got older and we're out of kid menus and everything, I'll never forget the turning point in that. And he would love to take us all out to dinner. The whole family goes out, 6 of us, and that's at the minimum if nobody else comes along. It's the 6 of us, and the bill used to be at one point, and then he would look, oh wow, they're adults now, you know. And so for him to feel like he's, you know, spending a bit of money to take everyone out, you would hate to see everybody like, okay, food one thing, but just like somber and bored or whatever it may be. If they're having a good time, it's so worth it. Same thing with the whole process of buying a house. I just put down a hell of a lot of money, but
Right.
you know what? It was.
But you gotta look at the end game, the end result and stuff, because there's always things that come. This is why we're comparing restaurant to real estate, because there's always something that's going to be wrong
Yeah.
in life in
Never
general.
gonna be
Yeah,
It's
perfect.
never gonna be perfect. So like in a restaurant, your steak comes out and it comes out rare, and you want it medium well. I don't know who gets their steak medium well, but it's definitely not me. But either way, so all right, so you have to send it back if you even have to. Like you might not
Yeah.
even have to. It's about the experience then. So you could get past that little hiccup in real estate. You said the down payment. It hurts when you're writing that check and stuff. But that's like the least thing that's expected. Let's say, I mean,
Let's say
There's a million in
Let's say
there.
your closing disclosure comes back and your closing costs are much higher than you thought they were going
but think
to be.
of something that's like actually happens during the transaction that ends up being an obstacle. We've dealt with it, 5 times in the last 30 days.
Yeah, I know. We deal with them all the time. It's
Yeah.
just like you put me on the spot. I can't think.
Yeah.
Something that
But
goes wrong.
like
Basic
what
thing that can go
about
wrong.
a survey issue or a title issue? What if you find out that there's no CO for a house you're buying?
Yeah. Now you got to figure it out.
And you're
right?
supposed to
Like-
close in
and-
2 days.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Based on a true story.
These are all true stories. Or the obstacle that you have to get through that you're selling somebody's house and the buyer's parents fall and
Yeah.
the ambulance is there and
Oh,
you got to figure that
True
out.
story.
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
extreme. But there's a lot of little things that happen. There's hurdles that happen along from point A to
Yeah.
point B, and it's very similar to the real estate experience. I mean, a restaurant experience.
I have someone in contract right now who the seller of the home that they're buying, their financing isn't going through. For whatever reason, their job fell through with whoever they're buying. So it's all a chain reaction.
Yeah, it's a
There's always
domino.
something, but you pick up the pieces and it's always too. It's just like when the waitress brings out the food. Okay, the food's cold. Who are you yelling at? The waitress.
Right.
Well, the bearer of bad news. Okay,
Right.
we're the men on the front line. So we take the heat.
Exactly.
But there's always something behind it, and it also teaches people. I think the service industry, coming from that, is not necessarily looking for someone to blame, but being understanding of all the factors that can be involved in anything.
Well, what I used to say to everybody, and I still say it, I think that bartending was far from bartending. First of all, I could barely make a drink now, let alone then. I mean, it was really a shot bar and beer and shot bar. And I said that I'm a professional friend maker, I'm a bouncer, I'm a psychologist, a sociologist, and the list goes on.
And you know what?
And
we
that's
still are.
Right. So I think that I'm grateful, one, for bartending for so many years because it was fun. I met a lot of phenomenal people. And I had a lot of good experiences, and that prepped me to be even better in real estate because of the shit that I used to deal with behind the bar.
But you also weren't thinking, like you just said, it wasn't the end. It wasn't necessarily the end goal always on your mind. It was the moment of time. You're having fun with everyone. You probably didn't know how to make the best drink.
No, I mean, everyone, listen, I always thought like if
you brought the whole
girl
bar
comes up to the
together
bar, she goes, I want a Bay Breeze. That's a bad example because I know how to make that. But like, she doesn't know what she's getting. She had no
really
clue.
don't.
Most
Yeah.
of
They
it. So
hear
then,
it and
yeah, you go back to them like, well, what's in it? They don't know anything. So as long as you know one ingredient in the drink,
You make the
you're
color.
gonna be
As long as you
fine.
make the color.
Yeah, you're gonna do it. I do make a mean Long Island iced tea. So I've been told, but I've
Aren't
never
Long
had it
Island
before.
iced tea is kind of mean to begin with, no matter what.
Mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's a
Well,
hard
you said
drink, yeah.
Like that's, I could not drink a Long Island iced
No,
tea.
like
That would be very
like
mean to me.
No. Like all right, so maybe a different word should have been used. No, I mean a good.
And there's like
Long Island
five
iced tea.
kinds of alcohol in it in one drink, and it's just like a
You would think it's an easy
like a
drink to
Pepsi
make,
full
No,
but
of
there
you
is
gotta have-
you gotta have
the
because
ratios.
You got it because it could be disgusting if it's made wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've had those before.
Put
Long
too
Island,
much sour
and not that I
into it, yeah.
haven't had one since I was like 18, but never drank when I was 18.
You had
Never
never
asked me.
But anyways, the point being is they're so similar because you're dealing with a lot of problems and you're problem solving.
And it's quick solution. Yeah,
That's what you are. You're a problem
Yeah.
solver.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what you in the mortgage business and what we're doing in real estate. It's problem solving. So we're not selling houses. We're not on
Really
HGTV doing,
Yeah.
you see this house
not
and we're gonna go buy
glamorous.
it. There's nothing really glamorous about what we do. There's highs and lows. And like you really just gotta kind of keep like a good mindset that, even though like there'll be days like seeing Rebecca, like everything's crashing.
Yeah.
Everything's
I
crashing.
think we had a week where it was like
I remember
Oh.
that.
Every
It was recently,
single-
probably a month ago, you had that.
everything was
Everything.
going wrong all at the same time, combining that with a whole bunch of other crazy things, and we were like,
Can we catch a break?
can anything go right this
Right.
week, right? And we all have weeks like that, but it's really
Days,
about
yeah.
managing other people's expectations.
And sometimes,
expectations
which
are
is tough,
huge, yeah.
but you definitely have to try to manage that, and you gotta be upfront with it. And even if we sell a good amount of houses, even if you're you've had all these experiences, it's like
There's always
tomorrow
a new
there's
one.
gonna be a new one.
Always
Yeah.
a new one.
Like there's a new like the
You can't
the
predict.
person falling. I always like
never had that one before,
I'm like I've been
sure.
doing this for quite some time. This is the second time I've had an ambulance come to the house, but they're two different experiences. And I'm like I learned something from that day. The other day, but when did we close on the condo?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. So Monday we did that was a couple days ago.
This week feels long.
Yeah, it does, right? It's an odd week. And I thought we were still in 2020, not
Yeah.
21. So
There we go.
so it's January something. And Monday we did this final walkthrough. And going into it, there was electrical issues that needed to be fixed. Well, they got fixed, so we were told. So I bought this little gadget that I've been wanting to buy for a long time. And all it is you put it into an outlet and it says if it's good or bad.
An outlet
basically.
test.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Great. So
Saved up for a long time for that.
this should have been a 15 to 30 minute final walkthrough. It turned into about an hour and a half, and I'm 100% embarrassed about it then, and I still am. But I learned something from it, and it was somebody, Dan DeMarco. I spoke to him later about it, and he's like, "Listen, did you learn something from it?" And I did. Yeah. I was taking the tester, and I was putting it in there, and every other one I was accidentally hitting the trip button. So I tripped them, and then all of a sudden, all these outlets didn't work. So we're going through, and I went over to the electrical panel. So when you trip them, I don't know, you guys probably know this, but when you trip it, it goes over. But it didn't go all the way over, it went slightly over. So when we looked at the box, it looked fine. So I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, this is at the home inspection. This was only the row that didn't work, and they said they got to figure it out. So right now in my head, I'm problem solving, and then it would now the listing agent came because I was on the buyer side. We were on the buyer side, and I'm in the living room, and all of a sudden I went like this, and I hit it, and I go, oh shit! I go, that was me. I just tripped the breaker because we kept hearing this noise, and it happened like 3 times. So all of a sudden the other agent goes, well there's an orange piece right there. To cut the story shorter, I am an asshole the whole time. I'm sitting there and accidentally tripping it, and it took an hour and a half, and my client's getting pissed. He's like, this is the big problem. Like the electrical doesn't work anywhere, not just this one room, but it's every room. And the thing is this big, so my thumb's bigger than it, so I kept on accidentally hitting it. So it was a learning experience, and I would have never thought in a million years I would have did that. Because it was finally, I'm like, all right, we're gonna go back through this one room.
And you have to think, if everything's not going.
It was like, well, it was like every other was working. That was the thing. That was the crazy part about it.
Because you didn't trip that one yet.
I didn't trip that one yet or something. But I was actually holding it right at times, but then I'd go to the next one and must have hit that button when I'd plug it in.
You're probably like going fast too, because it's a walkthrough. It's kind of like.
Not to mention, I have like a winter jacket on. I have a scarf on. I'm starting to sweat. Things aren't going right. So now and then I have our clients are kind of like now getting aggravated.
Yeah.
And they saw that this is the first time they saw the house.
They bought it sight unseen.
They bought it sight unseen.
Really?
We sold it via FaceTime, did the home inspection via FaceTime.
So this is a COVID purchase, I'm assuming.
They were out of state.
We sold their house. Yeah, we sold their house in March of last year. They didn't like where they're living, so they moved back to New York. So he's like, or they said, can you help us up here with all this stuff? So, I did the whole process and got through it and everything else. And everything was fine until that final walkthrough, and I'm the one that was doing everything. So
did they at least laugh a little bit at the end?
Oh, absolutely. So we walk out. They're awesome. They're amazing. So we walk out, and I'm like, well, that was a fun experience, right? And that just made me think of something else. But that was a fun experience, right? And they're like, yeah, not too bad or whatever. And I'm like, and they're so cool about it, kind of laughing about it. I apologized the next day when we were at the closing. And I made note of it again to them. And they're like, listen, whatever. Like, at least we know everything works. Like, all right, cool. Like, they're cool about it. So, I mean, that's like the best case scenario that could have happened. But like the whole time, I'm like, man, this is not my first day. This is not my first final walkthrough, but the shit happens. So it's like you make mistakes.
No two scenarios are ever going to be the same.
Right. And that's what, I think that, like if you go back to everything, that's everything. Like whether you go to a restaurant or you walk outside or everything.
But that's anything, and especially in our business though, it's always a different. I used to come up with like random loan scenarios and I'm like, that's weird. I never saw that happen before on a credit report, whatever it is. And they would say, yeah, you're never going to see it. It's going to be something different on every file. You're going to always come up with a different case, a different scenario. So you learn this one, but you may never see it again in your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you always remember it. So when you do face it again, you know how to tackle it. Because we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
We're experienced. I mean, we've sold a ton of homes.
Right.
But
we don't know everything.
We don't know.
Nobody knows everything.
No.
Like, nobody can experience everything.
And I always say, so long as we're willing, if there's a question I don't know, somebody asks me, if you don't know it, it's okay to say it, but get the answer then.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to.
It's okay to say, I've never had this come up before.
Let me find out.
Let me go check with somebody who would know.
There's a way to approach that, and I learned this 8 years ago from Dean Miller. We were sitting next to each other, and he said, I don't claim to know everything, but I know somebody that knows the answer. Which is very true, and you can't know everything, and you shouldn't know everything. I can't tell you everything about a mortgage, or I wouldn't be able to tell anybody. And I shouldn't know that because that's not my gig. I know enough to
we always use
talk about it.
That's not my monkey. Like the guy who, that's it.
Yeah. and I would pass it off.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how we approach everything. Not everything, but like a mortgage question.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It'll be like, oh, I know this, but we better check with your loan officer on that aspect of it because they're the expert.
Yeah, and remind them who's
You know,
who's
like
field
we
which,
know
yeah.
some, but we don't know everything about mortgages. Otherwise, we would be loan officers. You
but in
know,
the same way,
Yeah.
I would hope that you would approach it like,
Same
no,
time.
speak to
Yeah,
your
speak
real
to the realtor about that. That's,
Mhm.
that's not my money.
That's
right. You know,
That's
so
their game right
sometimes
there.
the answer is, you know, we do this often. We've seen this come up before. But that's a legal question, so you should really check with your attorney.
Yep.
You know, this is what I do know, but you should check with your attorney.
And not being afraid to delegate them to where they should go too. 'Cause
Right, and that
it's
well,
for the customer's sake as well.
yeah, I think that happens with a lot of people. You feel like you have to give somebody an answer,
Yeah.
and I also think that happens with the new people in the industry too. They'll
wanna
get hit
be
with
the
a
one to
question.
give it
They
all,
want to be the
yeah.
one to answer the question, and then they end up and people take what you say to the grave with them.
Mm-hmm.
So then you say that answer, and shit, you're not getting that back now.
No.
You know that you might as well have taped it because they'll remember it, and and it doesn't even matter if you said it vaguely or
It's there.
it's there. So you're almost better off
Yeah.
just saying that, like, I don't know the answer right now. Let me get back to you. I know somebody that has the answer. Let me find out exactly for
Yeah.
sure.
Exactly.
And
Even something as simple as like when your client calls, we get calls constantly, we're not always in front of our computer when they call, or we're not always in front of their file when they call, so sometimes they call and they're like, oh, I have a quick question. And, I might be driving my car when they call, right? So I'm like on the Bluetooth, whatever, driving, and they're asking me a question, but I don't know because I can't remember everything
And
about
it's
every
okay
house.
to admit that.
And
You're
every
busy,
file.
you're not the only file, and it's okay to say, hey, you know what? Let me
Yeah.
before I give you the wrong information, let me get in front of my computer and we'll
Right,
do this.
and it's okay to just say, hey, like, I'm driving right now, I need to call you back in an hour when I have your
Yeah.
file in front of me. And
Text too.
Because people
You know-
think the quick answer, the right now answer, and we always say, you want the quick answer, the right now answer, it might not be the answer you want, or it might not be the accurate answer. Give me a little bit of time, I'll get you the research, I'll get you the real answer, and
right. Yeah, it's the best way
Yeah.
to approach it.
and that's really a lot of, like when it comes back to working in a restaurant, you're managing people's expectations, or you're controlling the situation. You give food or you give drink to somebody and they have a problem. When they approach you with a problem, you're listening to what the real problem is. Sometimes the problem that they tell you isn't the real problem.
Exactly, there's
So,
one behind that one.
You really have to listen for what's the real problem here.
Can't always figure that out though.
What's
and
not being said.
That's a one. Like I'm like, well, I'll talk about a client or something, or just discuss it with Rebecca, and she's like, well, it could be this, and
She's the queen of that. Let me see that.
right. Well,
it's
I
checked in
like
here.
I think of other things, but usually I think it's the female thing too that
Yeah, I
that
think
I can't
that
always figure out.
our different perspectives really benefit us sometimes, because if we have a problem,
I didn't even realize I could have requested to join. Does that mean that my face has to be in if I request to join?
no, that's if we do the split screen, which you don't
Oh.
want to do because then it'll mess it all up right
Okay.
there.
Because I did notice some people, my cousin tuned in, and it's on your screen.
Yeah.
That's cool. Say hi to people.
What were we saying? Oh, like you might take the phone call from a client and they're talking about a problem, and then you relay the information to me and we talk it out, and I might say, oh, well, maybe that's not really the problem, maybe this is the problem.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you remember me telling this. So that I had a client before Rebecca and I teamed up. I was selling their home, and I started to think it was me. And once you start thinking it's you, your mind is like this, and I take everything on my shoulders. Like every single one of my clients, or our clients, friends, family, everything. It doesn't even matter. I always put it on me. That's where the stress comes from. So. So like I always say I'm in the trenches with you. Like we're doing this together. You might be buying the house, but like I'm there with you, right? I'm
Yeah.
there.
The dirt.
Like, and so this one time, like they weren't communicating with me, and all of a sudden, like they wouldn't answer me back, and like something happened, and I'm like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden they want to take the house off the market. I'm like, shit. And then they said it's because of the holidays. All right. I granted their wish, and then we ended up putting it back on. Lo and behold, their cat got hurt. And that's what the problem was. It wasn't me. It wasn't them. There was an issue going on, but they never told me the issue. And at that time, this is going back many years ago, I didn't know to ask
You
either.
didn't think to ask.
Nor would I have probably even asked today, the way that was being handled at the time. You know, so the underlying issue was a cat issue.
Nothing
It wasn't
to do with
nothing to do with
the
me.
house
nothing to-
or anything.
They're Raven fans. They moved to another state. You know, everything worked out phenomenal. But yeah, it was a cat thing the whole time.
Your cat.
The cat. Yeah. So.
Wow.
So I don't think you could all. So what Rebecca was saying is like sometimes you just gotta dive in and try to figure out what the real problem is.
It's becoming on a more personal level with the clients, which I think we all are very personal with our clients. And
Yeah.
especially in the past year, I've had that a lot of clients kind of fell off who I was very close with, like maybe repeat clients and such, and I would reach out, hey, is everything cool? I haven't heard back, waiting on documents, and unfortunately the responses were a lot of really upsetting. It had nothing to do exactly with that, with me or the mortgage.
Just
It
life.
was a lot of COVID stuff, a lot of, I'm so sorry, it's been this much at home, I just haven't even gotten to think about that right now, and no worries, I'm here when you're ready, and
Yeah, and
it
that's-
was just
that's life,
asking the
too.
question, hey, is everything cool? Or maybe you went with a different lender, that's fine, just wanted to know where we stand. No, it's not that at all. This, and this came up, and it was a bad month for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, all of our clients have life
Life, yeah.
happening at the same time as they're buying or selling or refinancing.
Life still
They
goes
all still
on.
have life happening. And life this last year has been really crazy for a lot of people, which just kind of goes right back into hospitality, having empathy for other people's needs or trying to understand where they're coming from when they say something.
Yeah.
Or what they might be experiencing on the other side.
Yeah, you just don't always know, and then you also have a job to do. So you have to remember, like, it's an emotional business, and there's a lot of emotions playing, but you got to kind of step back sometimes.
Take yourself out of
Like,
that.
even though I say that I'm diving in, like I am diving in,
Always
but
diving
there
in.
has,
Jump out
I
sometimes.
have to jump out for a minute because you know what? You want the house. I need to jump out of this,
Yeah.
and then she's good for that. So like she jumps back in or something.
Right,
No.
but just like when you were bartending, how many times a day probably did you have somebody come into the bar, sit down, they were in a crabby mood because they had a shitty day at work or they had a fight with their wife or something, and they come down and they sit at the bar and they just need a drink, right? And they're not happy.
7:00. Come in, you know exactly. There's about 10 dudes, maybe a couple other females there. And I knew exactly what everybody was going on in their life and everything else. So it
You
was
knew
like,
their story.
and then I knew the story and I knew everybody's story. That was the thing. Because I listened.
That was the key. We've been having that conversation a lot as we've been obviously expanding on the floor here and new people, and that's the first thing I tell them all. Like, just listen. When you're on the phone with somebody, listen. Don't be so quick to answer. It's listening to, and there's so many key words in what they're saying that they're not really saying. Kind of like the underlying, the whys are there, and you're hearing little bits and pieces, and you can kind of tell a story from what's not being said
Right.
sometimes too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's not always as cut and dry, but 100%. You usually could dive deep and you actually know what's going on afterwards.
And it can be good things as well as bad things. Like I always say that we tend to know a lot about people's personal lives before anybody
Anybody
else
else.
in the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
world knows. Like
Crazy.
if our clients are pregnant and nobody knows, they tell us all the time. Because
Yeah.
it's related to
Wow.
what they're doing with us. Or, there are bad
Yeah,
things too that we end up knowing about, and just because we deal with people's homes, so it's their personal life.
You're on it firsthand with them. I used to say this all the time, and I relate this to this business too. When I was managing at PF Chang's, there was, and I'm not going to say the name because everybody is friends with me from there, but everybody knows because I tell people that about this particular person. Sweetest waiter ever, like the nicest person. But at the time, he truly sucked as a waiter.
Huh.
I mean, mistakes like constantly. Like every table's, can you fix this? Can you take this off this check? I did this, and I'm like, oh my god. And I never got mad because he was just so nice. I'm just like, damn. when I say his guests never left mad, he made the most money out of everybody there. He was just so nice and so honest. Anytime he screwed up, it was, I'm so sorry, that was my fault. It's going to be like another 20. He never put the blame on anyone else. Took the blame every time. And I say that in this business too. Now, no one's ever quick to take the blame if it's their mistake. But sometimes just being honest and just saying, you know what, it's my fault, but I'm on it, I'm fixing it.
Right.
Or whatever the case may be.
It's very easy to pass the blame sometimes. You know.
Very.
And a lot of times it is somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
But I always, like, we're the quarterback of the transaction is what I say. So, like, everything's always going to fall back on us. So if the attorney falls off,
we try to make up for it.
We would pick up for it. And that's all the behind the scenes stuff that no one knows about because we don't bring it up to them.
But they don't even feel that side of it because you've done enough to...
They usually don't feel it.
Yeah.
There are times you'll feel it if it got to the extreme or...
We have one right now. There's things going wrong and there have been things going wrong for a while. And it's not on our side. We represent the sellers and the buyer's attorney is very slow at everything. And we try to mitigate as much as we possibly can. And the sellers are annoyed and they're bothered.
But people don't realize there's only so much
we're doing everything we can.
When it gets to a certain point in transaction.
Right, and that is a thing that's really is outside of our control. You know, we control as much as we can. We try to make up for it as much as we can. We try to step in. We do what we can. We can't fix everything.
And for the other parts we can, it's setting the expectations.
Yeah, you know, sometimes you have to work with people who are not fun to work with, and you make the best of it, and it's temporary. It all ends at some point.
And sometimes you realize you'll never work with them again, or anybody that is like that.
Yeah.
You know, I like to think that every person that we work with, or almost most, I can go and have a beer with and want to have a beer with them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always the case, and probably 75% of the people will never have a beer with, but like. But I like them as a person that I would say, hey, let's go grab a beer or something like that. And we even, sometimes our sit downs are having a beer and then talking about, you know, what's your goals, like this is what to expect and everything else, because we're comfortable in that situation. Like I said, a lot of our business is from me bartending for so many years. So where did I meet them? I met them in a bar setting. So why would we not sit down and have an appetizer and a beer?
Yeah.
You know, that's how I knew you. That's how you knew me. Let's keep it there or something. Doesn't always work out that way. You might be in an office instead, but you know.
You kind of, and that same thing about reading the vibe, reading the room, going with the flow of, I mean, this person, maybe I meet them in the coffee shop. Or this is this type of person. I'll keep them in the office, whatever, you know?
Exactly. You're 100% right. And, you know, and the great thing about it is that those experiences also give us an opportunity to connect more with our clients, you know. We connect with everybody on different levels, but we like it when we really like our clients.
Makes a difference.
You know, we like, and we're working with them for how long? We work with them for a long time. We have to be in contact with them for a long time. We want to like them. We want to go and we want to be invited over after they move into the house because we're friends.
Yeah,
we're not just clients.
One of the girls we worked with who just bought a house in the summer, we worked with her for about 2 years, right?
I don't know who you're talking about right now.
Nina.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We love Nina, but if that was someone we didn't like to work with,
because that's a long time.
That's a long time.
It was a long time. You know, things
it wasn't
just be
steady.
Like
there was breaks and stuff like that, but still, there's communication and stuff.
2, almost 3 years. One that was a credit repair one that we would turn into a hey, all right, we're ready now, and now I'm actually refinancing this particular one, and it's like we're never part ways.
Right.
So even if it does suck sometimes, you're not gonna like everybody, and that's in life in general.
Not everyone's
but make
gonna
the
like
best
you
of
either.
it, because you know what, it's
right.
Yeah, exactly. That too. Not everyone's gonna like you either.
It's hard. I hate people not liking me, but it happens.
I do too. I know. Somebody doesn't like you?
Probably a lot. I don't know. Hopefully not. Anybody out there?
Raise your hand if you don't like Aaron.
See, everyone's
He
waiting.
sees somebody waiting.
But yeah, I think that we stay on topic here. Like if you go into into a restaurant for the dining experience, it's a shorter window of time. So let's say it's 2 hours.
If you hate your waitress, well, we're leaving this.
Right. Or if everything's going wrong,
but you might not go back.
you just don't go back.
Right.
The real estate transaction is a longer time, and it's much more expensive.
Yeah.
You know, but
Much more involved.
it's much more involved. But it, you know, in a restaurant, you have the server. You first see the hostess usually. Then you get a server. Then you'll have the busser there. You'll have the drink person, possibly the bartender that you'll.
But that's a good point too.
You know.
You have an impression. The second you walk into a restaurant, the person at the front, that's your impression. If they're like slumped over, texting, whatever, oh yeah, your table right there, you know, that right there is your impression. You walk in, so that's like
Well, that's why, I mean, look
opening in a process.
it's usually
of
a
anything.
cute little girl that's all bubbly,
Yeah.
you know, it's still is, you know, happy with everything going on in life.
It's like
you
we have
know,
Michelle
like-
at our front desk.
Hey,
You know, it's like, oh God, good morning. I just
Yeah.
woke up, Michelle. But I'm so glad you greet our clients like
Yeah.
this. But it's the same thing. It's how walking through the whole starts off like that. Then you know, okay,
Right.
okay, well, cool. We're here to have a nice dinner.
It's well, that's why people spend buku money to go to Disney World. You know,
The
it's the
experience.
Yeah, that's a good one
And-
to reference. Yeah.
And that's a hard part also in real estate, because there's so many ups and downs, and it's a process, and it takes long. It's hard to make those milestones so big,
Yeah.
because it's like,
And give it that Disney World feel. Where
Right.
there are bumps on the way.
so like, think of a buyer in this real estate climate. You're probably gonna put in 3 to 5 offers before you actually get your house, and not everybody's okay with that. They got stuck on the
Yeah.
first house. I'm a big believer that if it's meant to be, it's gonna be. So I say that to people, and not everybody gravitates towards that, but I think that buyers in this climate could get a lot of disappointment. Then you finally get the accepted offer, but then you're pushing them so much just to get into contract, because so many people are still looking at the house and putting in offers, that you could ultimately lose that house as quickly as you got it.
Yeah.
You know, so and then you get under contract, and then the mortgage process starts, and the mortgage process stinks.
And they think, oh,
And
my
it's like,
contract,
hey.
nice, we're almost there. And it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we're at the first step, actually.
Yeah, we haven't even started.
That's what I always
We
tell
just turned on the engine.
And
They'll
that's
be
the key
like,
about
thank
the-
you so much, getting us under
That's what I'm
contract.
saying,
I'm
so when
like,
we're closing.
we're just getting started. Like, there's so many things.
And I have no problem, and that's the thing that people are afraid of, setting the right expectations in that aspect, but they'll come back and I would tell them, okay, you'll be out shopping, then you'll be back to us when it's time, and okay, now let's get started on our end. They're like, oh wait, I thought we did that. No, we got, now we start.
Yeah.
Now we get on that ride.
That was the
That was
research.
it.
Now we do the homework.
We just did the little ride, now we're on the big ride.
You know the email that you got from me, the 20 documents that I need from you? Well, I need those now. Like, and then you're still trying to go through it. And then so you get to the final walkthrough, you know, and then the week leading up, you're waiting
Are
to
we
get clear to
making home
close.
buying sound glorious yet?
No, I know, but I say it with honesty when I
Yeah,
say it to
exactly.
people. I'm very blunt with people, but then I bring it back, because it is a good experience. I mean,
It
you got to
is.
look at the end result, because leading into the closing, there's so many things that can happen. You know, we've experienced the last 30 days with our clients that, you know, it's not always rainbows and butterflies. But once you get to that and you get those keys and you get into that house, you're going to be in that house for a very long time. Whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, maybe it's forever home, who knows? You know, so you got to look at the end result, not everything that happened here. If you focus on all the bad shit, it's not going to be, you know, that's on you at that point.
That's a good way to.
Right. Sometimes you have to muddle through all the shit to get to the good stuff. And that's with everything in life, really.
Yeah, if you could find out when you're supposed to close on a house, that the house doesn't exist and it has no seal, you know, then what do? You got to figure it out.
This is
Like-
real life
like-
problems. We're about to hit an hour, so we'll wrap it up, I guess.
Ooh, yeah, let's wrap it up. That was a long time.
Yeah, for 50 minutes.
Wow.
I feel like we can go on about this topic for so long, though.
I know.
Oh, they're very similar. The
Yeah.
two are so similar.
Colliding worlds, really.
Because we're in a service industry. That's what it is. And that's why they're so
we really
similar.
are in service. 100%.
All right, so thanks for tuning in today, guys. It was really great to get back into the new year with you. We've got some more things coming up. We're gonna have a contest that we're gonna release next week, so make sure you're following my page, RebeccaCohen.Realtor, Aaron Bates Real Estate, and Danielle's page. What's your page name?
Danielle.Adornato.
Okay, and
That's a long one.
so make sure you're following all of us so that you know about our upcoming contest, and we will see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Bye.
Have a great
Happy New
day.
Year.
Happy New Year.